assets every Saturday afternoon. You can expect us to drop some game. And so, what's been going on in crypto for the past week? Now we have Vanguard, which is a huge company. Vanguard is the second largest asset manager in the globe. I believe they manage $11 trillion. BlackRock is the number one asset manager in the world. And so they're looking at opening a crypto ETF, allowing people to have access to invest in crypto ETFs, which is an exchange traded fund. For those of you who've been plugged on a call, you know what an ETF is. An ETF is simply a basket of goods or a basket of cryptos all piled into one stock. And so people can then invest in that one stock, but they have some investment in each of the baskets of cryptos within that stock. So it's a way to diversify your portfolio, and it's something where you can often see returns of 10 to 15% every single year on your funds. And ETFs allow large institutional investors to get involved in the market. And so maybe you've seen the comparison of when gold opened up their ETF decades ago, and when crypto opened up their ETFs, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so what has happened to price since then? Because it brings more people into the market. And so just to show you guys the sheer size of Vanguard, right? Like this company that is going to open up crypto ETFs for, typically the more traditional investors to get involved in, which, as you know, the traditional investor honestly has the most capital. Let's just go to like a couple of companies, right? Like, for example, Intel. Like, we know Intel is a computer company that's been around for decades. And so if we go to holders here on the left side, this is just like a bit of game for you on Yahoo Finance, guys. If you click holders on the left, you'll see BlackRock Vanguard. Like, basically the largest institutional holders of Intel. That's a good example. Now let's just go to Tesla. Let's see who are the largest holders within Tesla from an institutional side. I bet you Vanguard pops up. I don't know. I haven't actually checked before the call. Vanguard. So as you can see on the holder section here, I scroll down, top institutional investors, Vanguard, BlackRock. Like, they have $108 billion within Tesla. Let's just go to another one. Like, let's just try Amazon. Who's going to pop up? What massive asset managers are in Yahoo? Yes, just leave it there, please. Cool. And so there we go. Vanguard, massive, massive holders. The top holder within Tesla, $186 billion. So trillion, yeah, $1 billion. So you guys can see here, like I'm just clicking random companies, and Vanguard's popping up as like the top holder, or the top two at least. So that's an example of just how big they are in size. And so, there was an article here that basically dove into what they're doing. Vanguard, the world's second largest asset manager, has 11 trillion in funds, and now they're looking at opening up a crypto ETF, which is basically following their Wall Street counterparts, because many other companies out there have been doing ETFs, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and other layer one tokens as well. So that was interesting, brings more money into the market. FTX, as you know, they went bankrupt. They were a crypto exchange. They went bankrupt in 2022. They're distributing $1.6 billion to creditors, so people who had accounts within that case. And so this is just a good example, guys, of not having the majority of your funds on centralized exchanges. Very, very simple reason why, because on a centralized exchange, often known as a CEX, you don't own those assets. You often don't have title to those assets. And so if they were to do nefarious things with your funds, such as commingle them, and you think you got one BTC, one Ethereum, one Solana, but then in the back end, what these centralized exchanges do is they actually mingle it up all together. Now you've got your friend's Bitcoin here. You thought it was yours, then you got your friend's Solana, they got your Ethereum. Like, that's what they do. And then these exchanges then invest it into other things. They try and make more money off it. And long story short, it doesn't always go well. And so eventually, if they run out of liquidity, or if, the CEO decided to buy yachts in the Bahamas with your money, well, then guess what? They can go bankrupt and you don't own that money anymore. So that's what happened with FTX. And so this is why we always say, keep the majority of funds on hardware wallets, on cold storage places, things like a Ledger, things like a Trezor, things like what else? Like Exodus, a decentralized exchange that isn't connected to the Federal Reserve. So this is a good example of why you should take crypto security serious. And also, it's a good example that there's more money being injected into the crypto market, which is funny because we're in Q4, and Q4 is where consumerism is at its highest. Put a 10 in the chat if you know Q4 is when people spend the most amount of money, right? Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas. Put a 10 in the chat if you guys know, like Q4 is when the most amount of money is being injected in the. And so, yeah. So the third bit of news here is Cardano teams up with Near Protocol. And this was kind of interesting. I didn't know about this. And so if I go to the article here, you can see that Cardano partnered with Near. And I was diving into it a little bit more. Like, what does this mean? What does this allow people to do, guys? Well, to break it down, users can now swap Cardano across more than 20 chains and over 100 assets. So that's bullish news. That's great because now you can swap Cardano into all these other chains and all these other assets with no bridges. And that's one of the biggest parts about it. So my understanding of that is that there's basically lower fees and also it's going to be more seamless. And so because of this, more and more people will be happy to buy and use Cardano because of the ability now across many chains for you to invest in many other assets. So I think that's bullish news. Let's go to the fourth point here. SEC freezes QMMM after 1,000+ crypto stock surge. So this was interesting. I found this interesting because, as you can see here, because this just shows you the SEC, which is Securities Exchange Commission. These are the people who regulate all financial transactions and institutions in America. Like when Ripple was fighting against the SEC because SEC said, no, Ripple's a security, you can't do XYZ. These are the kind of lawsuits and settlements that go on. And so this company, QMMM, they jumped over 1,000% in less than 3 weeks. And so I thought that was very, very interesting. Gil, are you able to just like take over for 2 minutes? Somebody is banging on the door.
For
If
sure.
you're able to, that would be incredible. Thank you.
I got you. I got you. Guys, put some ones in the chat for John Luke. Honestly, for bringing in a lot of the game, talking about a lot of different things when it comes to what's going on. I love the segments that he's always bringing on. But yeah, he'll come back and talk about exactly what he was kind of giving. But I do want to give like a foreshadow on what we're going to be talking about on today's call as well. Now, let me know in the chat box. I know John kind of already said it, but we had a couple people come in. What was something that happened this week that was very intriguing? That's something that we're going to talk about today. So let me know in the chat box, what do you guys have seen that happened this week in the US specifically? Okay, bet. All right, John Luke's back, but y'all can still, yeah, perfect. All right, bet. So letting you guys know, that's something that we're going to be covering in today, but I think John Luke's back, so good to go.
No, I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah. No, that's very, very key. And so, yeah, this was interesting because this just shows you that the control that the SEC have. Because this was a digital advertising firm. And basically they announced that they're going to build $100 million crypto treasury with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And basically, just because of that announcement, guys, just because of that announcement, and the social media presence, it went up 1,000%. Like this is a stock, by the way, which is incredible. And so SEC said, yeah, like because of the social media buzz about this, we have to halt trading. So long story short, because too much people were making too much money and there's too much buzz about this, we're gonna pause all trading for this crypto for this stock. Sorry, it's like it's so funny, right? Because this is what happened with the Wall Street bets and AMC and GameStop back in 2021. Like a lot of people were making money. There was short selling occurring, and the SEC stepped in and they did not let people trade the damn stock because they were like, this is getting out of control. Long story short, aka institutions are losing money. So that's why the SEC stepped in. And then we had Token 2049 in Singapore. I had one or two friends go to that event. It's basically the world's largest crypto event, 25,000 attendees, which is like crazy. As we know, crypto is massive in the Asian market. So that was interesting. So yeah, so that's basically the news, guys. And so what I wanted to touch on is really like what a government shutdown is. What is a government shutdown? And so you guys may have heard about the news from October the 1st. I'm sure Gil's going to dive in about this as well. But basically, it's just these main two things, guys, because this happened literally this week. This is where Congress can't agree on what to spend their money on or how much to spend. And so the second thing is that Trump, obviously the president, he refuses to sign the budget bill because they can't agree on what to spend on and where to spend it. And so if that happens, which is what's happened, there's now a government shutdown, and that means that there's no money for non-essential services. These are examples of non-essential services like payment processing, national parks, museums, and business loans and grants to state and local governments. And so many people, as you know, are kind of like paused with their jobs. And so we're going to dive in, I'm sure, on the charts and everything about the effect of a government shutdown in the past and things. But I want you guys to know what it actually is and the reason why people are getting furloughed from their jobs, and the reason why certain services are suspended is because they can't come to an agreement on what to spend on and how much. Therefore, Trump refuses to sign it. So what are the implications, guys? These are the implications. Almost 1 million employees furloughed, basically can't work, and it costs the government $400 million a day. That's a lot of money. Contractors lose revenue, obviously, because think about it, the governments hire contractors to build things, infrastructure, from the tech side, from so many different things. But now the money that they get is just halted. Obviously, the public's affected with federal funded services. And the key part is that this can reduce GDP, guys. This stunts economic growth. In 2018, when the last shutdown happened, it cost the government not just the government, the economy, $11 billion. That was the opportunity cost of having a government shutdown, which is massive. And so these services continue because they're known as like essential services. And yeah, it could work with that. But yeah, exactly. This was key actually as well. Like in the last shutdown, guys, from December 2018 to February, I think it was February. No, December 2018 to January, the end of January 2020. 2018 to 2019, sorry. So December 2018 to January 2019, 4 million federal employees were basically working without pay. That's crazy. Like imagine you're working, you're not getting paid. Even in the military, certain people weren't getting paid. And so if they're getting paid bi-weekly or whatever, or weekly, they then had to wait until the shutdown ended to get all of their paychecks. That's wild. Like, you base your budget on getting paid weekly, all of a sudden you got to wait more than a month to get the money that you worked. So that's like a big effect on the government shutdown, which I found interesting. And also, actually, a couple of other things here that I'm just looking at is that things like employment data, that doesn't come out. Why? Because the people aren't working. And so the economics post-shutdown from the last time, guys, basically the S&P, the last shutdown ended in January 2019, right? 25th. The S&P rose 28% from that end of the shutdown for the next 14 months. From January 2019, Bitcoin rose from 3K to 64K over the next 15 months. Like, put a 5 in the chat if you think that's quite wild. Like, damn, like these shutdowns, there's like a reoccurring pattern here. Every time a shutdown opens up again and there's no more shutdown, the economy goes crazy. So these are good examples. As you know, the S&P is, I believe, the largest index fund in the entire globe. 500 of the largest publicly listed companies worldwide. And look at the number, 28% in just over a year is high for the S&P. The average return on the S&P, guys, is typically 10, 11%. And with Bitcoin going from 3 days to 64K, obviously, the pandemic the pandemic wasn't even in. That's wild, right? That's crazy. This was before the pandemic. So it didn't even have that as a catalyst. So anyway, that's interesting. And then just a note here, like many fundamental announcements won't come out and they're labeled as tentative. Like if you go on a Forex Factory, guys, unemployment data, CPI, like all of that stuff is tentative because the data is not going to come out because they just don't have it. And so that's like a big thing for us as traders, right? I'm on the wrong thing. Wait, here we go. I wonder if I can actually show that. Bank holiday. Saw it earlier today. Daylight savings, CPI, red. Yeah, so earlier, basically, I saw like it had the status as like tentative, but yeah, unemployment data and CPI, I don't even think that's going to be released, which is crazy. But that's actually the effect of the shutdown. And so if I just go to the charts real quick, and I go to the end of 2018, it's about here, guys. Like basically this area. Like right here, guys, that is where the shutdown happened. The last shutdown. And the last shutdown lasted, I want to say 35 or 38 days. I'm very close there. And if I get a ruler and I just go from here, right? Go from the end of January, January 21st, all the way to where price went up, like you can see, guys, it's crazy. Like from 3,000 all the way up to 62K. Wild. And if I go to the S&P, you guys are going to see, you guys are going to see the same thing. So look, if I go to S&P, go to the same time period, the end of 2018, because it was over here. All right. So if I go from here, the end of Jan, we take it all the way to where the S&P. Well, I mean, we can take it to here and we can take it to here because obviously that was COVID and we can take it here. So look at this. Government shutdown, boom. From here all the way up to here, 25%. 25% rise in about a year. And then obviously COVID helped, but if you look at it from here all the way to up here, 75%. This is the S&P. It's wild. So like this just shows you how the effect that a shutdown could have. Plus, we've got all the positive news in crypto for Q4 2024, 2025, such as what? Such as the fact that the monthly returns on Bitcoin, the monthly returns on Bitcoin in Q4 is crazy. And it's usually positive. There we go. So I don't even know where to find actually on this. Let me do this. I'm going to show you guys because I find it pretty crazy how what happens in Q4. Monthly performance. Oh, okay. It's only showing a year. But anyway, maybe Gil can get it up when I pass it over to Gil. But what I wanted to show you guys
It's
is
because
basically
I'm in a community where like talk about like crypto and stuff.
okay, just mute it. Yeah, but what I want to show you guys is basically month to month the probability of Bitcoin being bullish in Q4, which is pretty significant. And most times, most years, Q4 is just very, very bullish. And so with all of these signals, this is showing you that it's going to be a very, very, very exciting few months. So look, I wanted to dive into the government shutdown, the economics post shutdown as well. So I hope you got some value there. And at this point, I'm gonna pass it over to my boy Gil. I'm sure he's gonna dive into a couple of interesting things. And yeah, let's see what we got going on, Gil. Let's put some tens in the chat for Gil family.
For sure, for sure. If you can make me host that or co-host, that'd be sick. But guys, put some nines in the chat. 10 is continue the tens for John Luke. Honestly, he always gives a lot of game. Always gives amazing info, and it's very good point of view when it comes to what's going on, which is good, right? Because you guys hop on these calls every single Saturday to get informed, get ahead, and also be able to get different perspective of a lot of things. But like John Luke was saying, the government shutdown is something that a lot of people are talking about. Now, just to make sure and just to get a bias, put a 1 in the chat if you've heard about the government shutdown and put a 2 in the chat if you did not hear about it. Put a 1 if you did, put a 2 if you didn't. I'm just gonna kind of reiterate a couple things and bring some horizon. And I'm also going to be on the charts when it comes to more crypto and kind of price points that we can see happening and what effects could it really have in the markets and in our portfolio specifically as well. Okay, so a lot of us have. All right, cool. Now, I want to get y'all's point of view because I always like to do this because it gives kind of like understanding of where like majority of people are at. Let me know in the chat box what do you think the government shutdown means? When you first heard about it, you heard it on the news, you heard it on the on the live sessions, you heard it here, whatever. what do you feel like that means? Let me know in the chat box, because I'm saying this for a reason. Honestly, because I did some research on like prior years of the last time it happened, like John Luke was saying, 2018. Okay. So let me know in the chat box, what do you guys kind of see or feel about it? Without me telling you, just like, what do you feel about the government shutdown? So we got Brandon said purge. Okay. I thought that anything ran by government would be down for the time being. Many jobs lost. Okay. What else? What else do y'all feel about the government shutdown? What else? What else? What else? Let me know. Because it's really just good to get see sentiment, right? We'll get one more person. Economic impact. Okay. Cool. Now, I also want you guys to think, we're obviously on this call educated, right? We're educating ourselves within the community, within everything that we hear, or calls like this. So we're a little bit more ahead of most people. But the average person, right, either number one, isn't really paying attention to the government shutdown, or number two, they're more of like, what does that really mean? Like, is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing, right? It's what we call market uncertainty. Okay. Market uncertainty is something that I saw from my research that happened in 2018 going into 2019. It was like 35 days, if I'm not mistaken, of that government shutdown, which was the last time it actually happened. And what it really brought was just uncertainty. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. But what I like about government uncertainty, at least as an investor, it means that there's something going on in the back end. Now, put a 5 in the chat if you've ever heard, watch the masses do the opposite, right? Watch what's like everything's going on and kind of do the opposite. Same thing kind of happens in these situations, right? When most people aren't paying attention to something, or things are not really, something like that could be big, but it's not. So that means it's being covered up. There's things being going on in the back end, like John Luke was showing, and I'm going to show the chart now. Like John Luke was showing on his side. Actually, 1 second. Yeah, perfect. Okay, like John Luke was showing on his side, he was basically showing on when the last time it happened. Now, this is total market cap, all of crypto that we've seen. And I kind of lined up here when that happened, right? This was the gap when it happened back in 2018. Now, this was 35 days, which is a decent amount of time, right? You're talking about a month. And one thing that we saw is that it wasn't really crazy, right? There wasn't crazy bullishness, crazy bearishness. It was a little bit of consolidation. But what my eyes went to when I saw this wasn't necessarily what happened in the moment, but what happened after. Now, I don't know about you guys, right? But just having an eye point of view, I'm not saying it's going to be the same because we're not the same scenarios now, but just to give you guys perspective, during this time, right, this shutdown was actually the bottom of the crypto markets. Put a 7 in the chat if you can agree to that. Right? Here was a government shutdown. So we're going to put it like this. Shuts down. And then it was the aftermath. Right? You were talking about this was the last run, right? It won't be the same, but 2,500%. Okay. Now, what do I think when I look at this? I say, well, for this to happen, it's not a coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidences in the markets at all. Everything has its reason. So if in the last shutdown, it showed a bottom, and then after it started to move, going into 2019, going into 2020, 2021. Now, there's something going on here that maybe we didn't understand, right? Now, what I also believe, and these are just my points of view, none of this, what I'm saying now from here on out is like factual. It's more like my point of view, is government shutdown also means that there's really no eye in the government. Think about it. Government is closed, meaning people aren't working, meaning there's nothing going on, meaning people are just sitting at home. That's not true, but that's what they say, right? Because that's what it is, right? It's shut down, nothing's going on. I 100% believe that there's being conversation now, because I don't know if you guys have seen, But put a 9 in the chat if you've seen the talk about stable coins in the USA, right? The talk about Walmart creating their own stable coin. Okay. The talk about literally Amazon wanting to create its own stable coin. You know, this was on CNBC, October 1st, 2025. How stable coins can change the way Americans shop. Talking about how, you know, we have companies like Circle that went public, right? We have the Genius Act that got signed not too long ago. And what it provided is where corporations can create their own stablecoins. It did other things, but that was a part of it. Now, what if, right? My POV, just my, you know, rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it, right? What if during this time, they're actually looking to make a shift in the US economy? Okay. Now, this is kind of what I can see happening. Now, what does this mean for us? I'm not saying, you know, it's just, you got to look at it in a bigger horizon. When stable coins are being more used, it just means that there's more money in the markets. It doesn't mean that they're going to go buy Bitcoin. It doesn't mean that we're going to use Bitcoin. We're actually never going to use Bitcoin, in my point of view. We're going to use stable coins. But what this is presenting is having a movement of money from traditional money to now stable coins, which is in the blockchain, which brings more volume in the marketplace, which brings more eyes into the marketplace. Put a 10 in the chat if this is making sense. Now, I really believe that right now we are in a shift, and I think it's a little bit more obvious because nobody's talking about it. It's quiet. It's boring. You know, one thing I like to show is that literally before, so wild, before everything happened, before the government shut down, we were at almost extreme fear. We were at 28 here. This is something I use called fear and greed meter. We were at 28, and now we're at greed. But you know what's wild to me? You know what's wild? That we're literally at greed when it comes to like people's point of emotions in the market or whatever it is. But look at what happens. Now, this is what happens. We went from fear, this is all of crypto, to greed. Now, put a 7 in the chat if you can agree with me that this is not that much of a move. Like, it's not crazy, like in crypto. Yes, it's good. It's like, oh, wow, okay. But it's not crazy. It's not this type of move, right? It's not this type of move. It's not this type of move. It's not really that insane. So in my opinion, guys, from history, I don't know how long this is going to go, but I personally do see consolidation happening in this time period. I personally do see this market not doing too much craziness, creating some sort of consolidation and giving opportunity lower. Not too much, in my opinion, right? Not too much. But there's two sides to the coin because number one, I think there's an area here. You know, as you see in prior times, the market loves, literally, crypto loves to create a movement up, consolidation, movement down, movement up, consolidation, movement up, consolidation. Put a 5 in the chat if you can see that. Okay, that crypto loves to move like that. And right now it's moving like that more than ever. And the reason why is because there's more retail money now. Not retail, institutional money. It's not retail money that's moving the markets, guys. The average person is not buying crypto. They cannot afford to buy crypto. And they already got burnt out the last one. That's the truth. The average person. It's more of institutions. That's why this market is looking more like Forex. I don't know if you guys have realized that, but this market is looking like more like Forex every day, right? And Forex likes to move in this type of way because it's institutions. They want to trap people. That's where smart money comes in. So I 100% do believe that we're going to have some sort of consolidation. Now, I don't know 100% if this will come down and then go up, or it would just pump up, right? Create consolidation and then pump up and then kind of do something like that. I have no idea. But one thing that this means is that it's giving us time. Okay, it's giving us time to accumulate in this market because now we're going to go to altcoins, right? There's a chart called others I know we've talked about, and we've talked about this multiple times. This chart is every token outside of the top 10, meaning basically altcoins. And as we can see, we have a lot of movements. We have a lot of space for movement. We have a lot of opportunity because we have the other ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the top ones already hit all-time highs or close to all-time highs, while altcoins have not. Now, this highlights other opportunities that we've been talking about. Now, let me know in the chat box, what type of altcoins have you guys been looking at recently? Because maybe we can talk about it and go over them. But this is the biggest thing I want to highlight. One of the best times to look at the markets is when things are boring or there's uncertainty. I know we were taught the opposite, but honestly is not. When things are for sure going up, you don't want to purchase. When things are for sure going down, yes, but you also want to wait for that falling knife and then kind of, accumulation, right? Okay, cool. So we got Chainlink, Linear, that's a good one. Filecoin. Okay, let's go look at Chainlink, right? So Chainlink right now, guys, is looking pretty well, right? I believe Chainlink has a small movement down. I think I talked about in the last session, but this might have opportunity down here. Now, Chainlink, every single time I look at it, guys, I'm way more bullish every single time for what it's doing. Even if it's just Google, right? Let's do this together. I didn't do this before the call. I'm just kind of. Let's go look at Chainlink news right now. Okay. Now, one of the things, this is something that I started to look at my eyes at. Okay. I don't know if he's on this call, but shout out to Johnny. He's a community in the chat, in the community in Powerhouse. And he brought up this project called Plasma. And I'll talk about it here in a little bit. And we might have more of a segment like DeFi, the next one. But Chainlink partnered with Plasma. Now, what is Plasma? And what is Chainlink doing? Chainlink, in my opinion, is just bringing all of DeFi, and they want to be the data feed provider for all of DeFi. That is literally what Chainlink is wanting to do because they're partnering with all the companies that are coming up, the Ondos, right? The other ones are Aave as well. And now Plasma. Now, I don't want to talk about it too much on this call, but I'm gonna bring it up real quick. This is a website called DeFiLlama.com. This shows DeFi, decentralized finance, kind of the numbers, what's going on. And one thing it shows right here, there's two things going on, just to bring you guys horizon. And I'm probably going to have more of a session about this on the next session we have here as well. But the first thing I want to show you guys is that DeFi, the amount of money that is in DeFi, right? That means in decentralized finance, that means in projects like Aave, where you like stake, right? You do lending, you do trading as well. That's technically a DeFi protocol, right? We're getting into all-time highs. The last all-time high was in 2021. We're already about to break that all-time high from the previous time. Now, that is a good thing because that means that alt season is boiling up. It's coming sooner than we think because this money is obviously going to be in DeFi protocols, which are also in altcoins. Now, to kind of show you guys a little sneak peek of maybe what we talk about next week, these are the top ones that we see, the top blockchains. We have Ethereum at 93 billion. All of it is at 167, right? We got Ethereum at 93. We got Solana at 12. We got Bitcoin at 8. We got Binance at 8. We got Tron at 6. And then we have a project called Plasma at 5.6, which is very interesting to me. And they just partnered with Chainlink. Okay. So this is something that's very interesting to me. Chainlink is coming in and getting these projects and collaborating with them early doors because Plasma is basically providing, staking, lending, futures trading, right? It's literally that's what it's doing. And they're coming in and doing some things. So I'm gonna highlight this project. This is something that I might be talking about next week. I've been doing some research and it's been kind of catching my eye. I'm not gonna lie. And I might bring it up as well. But I wanted to talk about Chainlink for you guys and show you guys that like I'm very bullish. Like I know I don't tell people like I'm only, but I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know. Like I just feel very good about Chainlink because they're just doing everything possible to partner with everything when it comes to DeFi and really any blockchain, right? So that's Chainlink, guys. Highly recommend. This is a token that I think should be up there with the amount you have in Ethereum and Solana. Like this is my top three holding. Like Chainlink is my top three. It probably will be my top one by the end of this month. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? If we get that entry, I like that entry under $20 with a very good potential. Now, to highlight you guys again, just to give you guys some feedback on Chainlink, the last time Chainlink hit all-time highs, it was only working with Ethereum. I'm going to say that again. The last time Chainlink hit all-time highs, it was only providing data feeds for Ethereum. Now it's not only providing data feeds with Ethereum. It's providing for much more than just Ethereum. Much more than just Ethereum, okay? So just giving you guys point of view, that is something to really look at and say, wait a second, if the last run at 33 billion market cap, it was only with Ethereum, then what can that market cap look like when it's working with a lot more than just Ethereum, all right? So just to give you guys perspective on that is key. Now, the next thing we'll talk about is Filecoin. I know Linear, we can look at that one as well. We can look at Filecoin. Filecoin is something that is very low right now. Now, I do want to give you guys perspective as well. In my opinion, there's certain tokens that I am in, right? I am part of, but I will not accumulate more just because they're low, right? Because I also want to let you guys know that there's something important to understand. Just because it's a low price doesn't mean it's a good opportunity. What we want to see is some sort of adoption and horizon to see if this market, if this project is actually going to do something. Because if we're looking at Filecoin, which is a good opportunity right now, it's at a great risk to reward. We're at $2. It's either going to go to 0 or it's going to go to like 10. Okay, like literally, that's kind of where we're at. The good thing about this token is that it is at 1.6. So it is technically it's a main cap token. But one thing I don't like personally with this, I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? Like it's not going to be up here. I want to give you guys perspective that it's not going to be up here just because to give you guys understanding. The last time Filecoin hit all-time highs, it was at 12 billion. Okay. So you're talking about like an 11x, which is equivalent of Filecoin hitting $22. So if you're holding Filecoin and you think it's going to go to 100, 200, 300, you are very mistaken. In the last run compared to where it's at now when it comes to supply, which is very important because supply has increased than the last run, we're looking at like around $22, which is still good. It's like a good 10x in the market. Now, one thing with Filecoin is that right now, it hasn't been something that has something being used right now. Like I said, Filecoin is a good project. Even though it's a main cap token, I wouldn't have it in my main cap category. I wouldn't. I would call it like a tier 3 main cap. So I would have it maybe like a part of my 10, 15, 20% of my portfolio, not anything higher than that, because it has the potential of not doing much. It has a potential of doing a lot, but it also has a potential of not doing much. Okay. So just to give you guys horizon on that, it is a good project. But I'm just saying, do not put all your marbles in it yet because it hasn't proven its worth yet. It will, it could, but it hasn't done that quite yet. So I like this token if you're getting in. If you want to be patient, guys, maybe wait for a break of structure and start to see its volume start to go up a little bit and see what it's really wanting to do before you actually get a little bit more invested on it. All right. And then I know you also are talking about ICP. ICP, in my opinion, is the same, guys. ICP is the same. It has good opportunity. It got called out on Zenrai Ideas. If you guys don't know about Zenrai Ideas, it's on our app. Mike Sotero called out ICP. So it is a good potential entry. The reason why I do like it, and I am in ICP, but the reason why I do like it is because the entry is super low. Like we're at a gray area where it's literally going to go here or it's going to go to 0. Like that's it. There's no like, you know, it's either going to go down and not really do much, or it's going to see good upside. So it has good risk to reward. But again, ICP is a main cap token, right? It has over $1 billion. Last time I checked, yeah, 2.4 billion. But just because it's a main cap doesn't mean I will have 50% of my portfolio in ICP personally. I think it's a tier 3 main cap as well. Reason why is because we have to see what it's really going to do. We have to see if it's really going to be used. We have to see if there's actually going to be adoption. All right. It's great. It's a great project. The layer 1, it uses AI, it does a lot of things. But remember, it's not just about what something does, it's about the marketplace coming in and adopting that asset, adopting that network, adopting that thing. And a lot of people don't look at that. They're blinded from it. They're like, oh my God, this is a good potential. But the same way that there's somebody that has potential doesn't mean they're going to get to the results they're going to get to. Like, put a 5 in the chat. Have you ever met somebody, or maybe yourself, you're like, oh, this person has potential, but didn't get anything done, didn't do anything. Same thing happens in these projects. They have good potential, but we got to see it happen. Okay. And that's something that's key. Now, I do have ICP in my portfolio. I like ICP, but it's not something that I am going to be accumulating too much of yet, because I want to be patient. I want to be patient for sure. All right. And then, yeah, let's look at linear real quick. I haven't heard about that in a minute. I know something that I heard one of the traders talk about not too long ago. Linear is more of a mid-cap token, right? So it's a lower token. It's over 100 million, but under 1 billion. Okay. And as we can see, right, it's kind of like, this is something that's very eye-opening. If we go look on here, it's a project that it's a layer 2, right, of Ethereum. Now, I do like about this. Now, to give you guys perspective if you don't know what a layer 2 is, a layer 2 is basically, you have Ethereum, and then you have blockchains below Ethereum that maybe make things a little bit easier, cheaper fees. It became popular in Ethereum because Ethereum was very expensive to transact at a time. So then we had things like Polygon. We had things like, which was Matic, right? Which I don't think is a good investment anymore. And then Linear came about, and they're creating a sub unit in Ethereum to build, right? Now, this is something that I have had my eyes on before, as well. Now, one thing I do kind of want to see is layer 2s even going to be relevant, as well? So I'll probably do a little bit more research. I might bring this up on the next call as well, because it is more of a, could say DeFi, as well. Let's see what they got in DeFi. Yeah. Wow. Their volume went up. Their total locked went up, which is a good thing. That means people are coming into this project and locking in their money, in here. So I'll look into Linear. I do kind of like this. When you look at price, and this will be the last one before I end the session. But when you look at price here, yeah, and it's a new project as well. I know it just got in certain exchanges, but price is pretty low. Like, it's kind of like starting out when it comes to on exchanges. I know in 2024, I think is when it first got launched, if I'm not mistaken, or 2023. But Linear is something that we can look into. You want to start looking like this. This is a little bit more advanced. But if you're looking into this project, I think it's a good one. Again, definitely be patient. Do not put all your eggs in it, but it is something to start looking at as well, and maybe to adding it to a smaller portfolio, that you can start doing. Okay. Now, if you guys want to talk about any other project, let me know in the chat box, as well. But that's kind of what I want to talk about, guys. I'm going to go a little bit more next week. I just want to talk about today on like where things can go from this government shutdown. In my opinion, like I said, I think there could be a good amount of consolidation, like even with Bitcoin, here. Like, I think that this can stay kind of stagnant, right, during all of this because of uncertainty, and maybe come back, and go up, because I want to tell you guys this as well. In this month, we're going to have the interest rates as well. The FOMC is going to be at the end of the month. Now, my question is the government going to be open by then? And if it is, it's interesting because I know John-Luc mentioned it, because none of these will really be announced if we're still closed. Like the ones that say US, these won't be out. But you know what the Fed uses? They use those percentages. Obviously, I think the Fed already knows the percentages regardless. It's just like this is all like a first saw, in my opinion. But it's interesting because what if they don't show any of the percentages and we don't know what's going on, and an FOMC comes and crazy cuts, or they don't cut? That would be wild. Like that could create a lot of commotion. And that's why I think uncertainty will bring consolidation. And maybe that news, guys, maybe FOMC can start to do something like this and then take off. Because I think the more they cut rates, the closer we are to the euphoria state. It's not going to happen from one cut to another, but it will happen gradually. And that's actually what we want to see, because that means that this market is going to last a little bit longer than we can anticipate. All right. So put a 1 in the chat if you guys learned something today. I appreciate you guys for being on today's call. I'm excited for what's to come, guys. Next week, actually, I'll talk with Jean-Luc, but I definitely want to do a DeFi segment because I've been doing a lot of research for a couple projects. And I think it's a great time to look at DeFi because it's what moves with altcoins as well. So next Saturday, we'll probably have a session when it comes to decentralized finance. If you do not know what it is, then you'll have a breakdown about that. We'll talk about some projects. And if you know somebody that should be on this call that is a part of Powerhouse, or somebody who maybe isn't a part of crypto yet and wants to learn more about what we do, then invite them to this call, because next week, I believe we'll bring a lot of value when it comes to decentralized finance. We'll talk about a couple projects we talked about today and a lot more to come, guys. So definitely stay posted, stay plugged in with Zenrai. You know, this is the best time to be watching Maestro on our platform. If you do not know about that, then reach out whoever invited you. If you're watching this YouTube, leave a comment, whatever it is. But it's super grateful for you guys for being on today's call. Jean-Luc, bro, I appreciate you for running this call with me. I know we did a different time, which I think was good. But next week, we'll be back at regular scheduled timing. And I'll see you guys there. All right. You guys have a good one, and peace.